Hey guys, here to talk to y'all about UFC 267, and I know things look a little different. Forgive me, I'm in the transition of moving right now. It's been a busy week, fresh off of work, but like I said, still here to give you my predictions and analysis of UFC 267, so let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing is that this fight card is happening earlier than expected, so if you have plans on Saturday night, keep them, because this fight card is going to start in the morning at 9:30 a.m. We're going to get a good helping of violence for breakfast. The main card actually starts at 1 p.m. and the UFC is hitting us with back-to-back big cards for this weekend and next weekend. So this has been a highly anticipated card, especially since we have 2 title fights happening on it and the return of some big names. Even the prelims are looking great. But today I want to talk about 3 fights, the first of which being Khamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang, and the next one is Corey Sandhagen versus Peter Yan, and the last one being Jan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. So the first one on the list, Khamzat Chimaev versus Li Jingliang, is a banger of a fight. Both of these guys love to knock people out. Both of these guys are very, very violent, and both of these guys are absolute brawlers. Khamzat Chimaev, as we all know, made the biggest splash on Fight Island during the middle of 2020 in the pandemic, fighting back to back to back as much as he could. The last fight he had against Gerald Meerschaert, he one-shotted that dude and flatlined instantly. Very, very quick, very violent individual, but the only thing that I'm worried about with Khamzat is that he's coming off a big battle with COVID-19. He had COVID-19 so bad that it actually forced him into retirement momentarily. They said that he was spitting up blood, he could barely climb up the steps, and that on Twitter he retired. And maybe he was just having a bad day. According to his coaches, that's what was happening, but it's going to be interesting to see if he still has that same mentality. Is his gas tank going to become a factor? Has his body fully recuperated? Maybe he has some lasting issues. Honestly, it's very concerning. But if he has come back fully recovered, I'm excited to see Chimaev come back to being as brutal as ever. I mean, this guy was demolishing people at 2 different weight classes, at welterweight and at lightweight. But he has said now he's focusing purely on welterweight. He says he's coming for Kamaru Usman since he doesn't have much time left here in the UFC, that Usman's already 35, and that usually before the age of 30, we have some phenoms that we'll get into later that are fighting past the age of 40. But Khamzat has made his goals very clear. And across the cage, we have Lee, who has been a powerhouse of a striker. I mean, he's been taking people out left and right. He had a little bit of trouble with Neil Magny, but still went on to a decision. So it's going to be interesting to see how he attacks someone who is equally as brutal and equally as aggressive. Chimaev usually waits for his shot to make that one big punch land and land efficiently. Lee usually rushes in with a swarm of attacks, and if he's getting pieced up by distance or range, or maybe it's even just by timing, he's really good at closing that distance and taking it to the ground and being able to enforce his will. Like I said, Lee is a brawler as well, and honestly, it's pretty amazing how he gets away with striking the way that he does. His favorite combo to throw is the powerful right followed with the left hook, and he's pieced people up and finished people with both of those shots, whether by the right hand or the left hook. And a lot of guys, they have that 1 split second slip up of not having their hands up or striking while he's throwing that big combo, and unfortunately many have suffered the end of it. And once Lee gets his opponents on the ground or up against the cage, he follows up with the classic mink 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 combo until they're done and immobilized. And the only thing I'm noticing that Lee slips up on is when he throws that big powerful right followed by the left hook, is that his head's down, his eyes are down, he's almost defenseless, and if Chimaev is able to time that just right, he's going to be able to land that big shot that he's used to landing and that he's looking for. It'll be interesting to see if this fight actually makes it to the ground, but I don't think we're going to get to that point, and I'm going to have to give this one to Chimaev via first round TKO. Alright, so getting into our first title fight of the night for the bantamweight interim title. And so this one's going to be fought for the interim title because the champion Aljamain Sterling, who won the belt off Peter Yan from a illegal knee kick that was heard around the world, is injured and he's going through surgery. Corey Sandhagen is coming off the loss to TJ Dillashaw, but still finds himself in the position to fight for the interim title because Dillashaw as well has to get surgery. So it's kind of untimely, but I still think we're in for quite a banger. To be honest, a lot of people still consider Yan the true champion of the bantamweight division, and yeah, Aljamain Sterling has yet to defend his title and has yet to rematch Peter Yan, because when you win a title like that in such a controversial way due to a disqualification of the illegal knee, which, yeah, Yan put himself in that position, but still, it's kind of what we're dealt with, and honestly, this fight could end up being fight of the night. So in Peter Yan's case, I mean, he has been able to brutalize all of his opponents. He's an absolute vicious killer in the ring. And whenever he fought Aljamain Sterling, it wasn't like it was a close fight. Yan was winning every single round, and it was almost getting to the point where it was only a matter of time before Sterling was getting caught or just ended up getting his butt kicked for 5 rounds. Up until that illegal knee, Jan was having a beautiful performance, almost flawless if you will. And although he lost his title due to disqualifications, there's still no answers to how to fight Peter Yan. I mean, he, like I said, he's just a brutal, vicious dude. He's just a killer. And Corey Sandhagen, he's been in there with some tough guys as well. In his last fight against TJ Dillashaw, many folks believe Sandhagen won that fight. But Dillashaw, being that it was his comeback fight after his suspension, maybe there's some favoritism going on there. And Sandhagen, no stranger to going to war. Although he did lose to TJ Dillashaw and he has lost to Aljamain Sterling, the current champion, he is never shying away from going in there full force. He has finished Frankie Edgar, which is a very notable win, and I believe that he has the range to be able to hang with Peter Yan. I'm just not sure how he's going to be able to go and attack Peter Yan. That's going to be very interesting. I see the first round being a very touch and go first round, a lot of checks and stuff. Peter Yan may come out with a full head of steam though and try to finish him in the first just to send a message. He's already been taunting Sterling again, so maybe his mind may be a little distracted. And in Sandhagen's scenario, I don't think Peter Yan fights well off his back foot. You have to take the pressure to him. If Corey's going to have a chance to win this, he's got to put the pressure on Peter Yan to get him moving backwards and take control of the center of the cage. Make Peter Yan try to find his way back in. Corey Sandhagen is very, very good at slowing fast fighters down. If he can slow him down, he'll be able to pick his shots more efficiently. Peter Yan may end up getting frustrated, especially since he's trying to chase that title so bad, and which could possibly leave him open for a big shot. With that being said, I still think Yan's going to go in there with a full head of steam and an unstoppable force and mindset, and I feel like he's going to try to get Corey Sandhagen knocked out by the second round. So that's why I'm choosing to win this fight and moving on with the interim bantamweight title to fight Aljamain Sterling, hopefully somewhere in the near future, or if TJ Dillashaw comes back in time, that would be a great matchup between those two as well. All right, main event time for the light heavyweight title. It's going to be Glover Teixeira finally getting his overdue title shot against Jan, the Polish power Blachowicz. And man, this fight is going to be either very epic or end very quickly. So many have said this, but the lightweight division is in a very unique spot that doesn't happen too often, where everybody in that division, everybody at the promotion, all the matchmakers in charge know without a doubt who the #1 contender is. We as fans all know that Glover Teixeira deserves this shot. He's been superbly dominant. He's been able to face Father Time and been able to last amongst these young bucks that think they're going to go in there and run through the old guy, and he imposes his will on them. He has notable wins. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and yeah, I'm excited to see him get his shot. He definitely deserves it. Nothing but respect between these two. Jan Blachowicz is coming off the win over the middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, and in that fight, we saw Jan actually have to change up his game very, very quickly. Jan was able to get Israel on the ground, which not many opponents are able to do, even if they're very, very highly noted in jiu-jitsu or wrestling or whatever type of form to take somebody to the ground you may prefer. So Glover is 42 years old, and he's been through the ups and downs of the UFC. He's taken his losses, he's climbed back to the top, fallen again, and climbed right back. He's a relentless force, and the way he goes about devouring his opponents is just amazing to be able to impose his will. People can go in there and fight him and know exactly what's going to happen, and they end up getting worn down. This guy who they thought was going to maybe be a walk in the park, maybe they thought that all he has is a couple of takedowns and he'll lay on top of me and give me a few ground and pound hits. All I got to do is get my way back to the feet and impose my will, or he'll gas out eventually, you know? And he's like the Tim Duncan of the UFC, to be honest with you. And the way Teixeira is able to go in there and just get a hold of his opponents, and as soon as he does, get them to the ground. He has multiple wins by submissions, also TKOs, and he's just like a storm that comes, and whenever you break to Glover Teixeira, he definitely knows that he's on the brink of getting you out of there. We saw it happen against Anthony Smith, where he was literally taking his teeth off the mat and handing them to the ref because Glover Teixeira was just doing his thing, and there's no surprise about it. But here's the thing, in order to impose his will, he's going to have to get close to Blachowicz, and Blachowicz has his very noted Polish power who has stopped light heavyweights dead in their tracks. So for Teixeira to go in there and have to impose his will, you know he's going to have to be able to take a few shots, and that's what's really going to be in question. Can Jan land that big shot that stops him in his tracks? And if he doesn't, how's Blachowicz going to get back up off the ground? I mean, he's definitely experienced in wrestling. He used it against Israel Adesanya, but Adesanya fights at middleweight. So maybe this light heavyweight is going to be a little different. Maybe it's going to be a little tough to get him out of there. I mean, Dominic Reyes before also tried to get Blachowicz to the ground. It didn't work out so well for Reyes, but not too many fighters are at the same level of grappling and forcing them to the mat like Teixeira is. That being said, most of Teixeira's losses have come from big power punchers like Anthony Rumble Johnson. He's lost to Corey Anderson, Alexander Gustafsson, John Jones. All these guys have big power in their hands. So in this case, I see Blachowicz winning in more ways than I do Teixeira. So taking all that into account, I see Blachowicz winning via TKO in the second round and remaining the light heavyweight champion. That being said, guys, thank y'all so much for rocking with me. I hope y'all get to enjoy the fights, and I will have my swords back next week whenever I talk to y'all about UFC 268. So let me know who you got picked, and if you haven't checked out the new episode of the J&J Arcade Cast, I will definitely go do so right after this video. Go check out my friends who are making some great content. So as always, guys, stay happy, stay blessed, have a happy Halloween, and I'll see y'all next week. Thank you.